want to ask you, Senator, are you reading more to this particular case than meets the eye?
Yes, Dibal, not only this case, but if you followed all the similar cases where money has been stolen from this country and stashed abroad. You look at, you remember Anglo leasing, how it ended. You remember the investigations on Goldenberg. You remember the chicken gate recently on the Electoral Commission thing. Yeah. So I think it's all the same. Our criminal justice system is, is more or less irreparably dysfunctional, or not because for lack of knowledge or whatever, but because of graft, as my colleagues have mentioned. And but more importantly, I think from what you have just read, it's very clear that who has the power to prosecute this matter. But again, if you want to stop it, then you find institutions coming in to try and muddy the waters and make it difficult for that exercise to go on. And it's happened in many similar cases regarding corruption. But I think if you look at the bigger picture, however, I look at the lack of political will, really, to handle these cases. Where there is political will, I can tell you for sure, at the top, these cases will be handled immediately. But where there isn't, for one reason or the other, there is political patronage or whatever it is, but for political expediency or whatever it is, these cases will not go anywhere. They will continue to go around, and then on top of that, the graft. So I think, unfortunately, that is the situation, and I think every effort will be made to try and not to get this extradition to go through, because it will set a precedent that everyone else fears. All the people that McPhee mentioned fear that precedent, that if today these two people are extradited to UK, tomorrow then, with what you have read about, that all those, in those offshore accounts, that's where all the Kenyans with money have their money, and that's where all the money, or most of the money that is taken away from or stolen from public entities are hidden. So then you can imagine the consequences. So nobody wants this precedent to be set, and so everything will be done to try and throw a spanner in the works to make it difficult for the criminal justice system to deliver that judgment.
Well, we all know where Kenya Power is right now, especially with independent power producers. At the end of the day, we know how the country also is suffering in terms of power tariffs, exorbitant, energy prices that we do pay as Kenyans at the end of the day. If we have these cases, and we know these eye-popping figures that are coming, this is 450 million is just a slice of what is salted away in those banks at the end of the day. Why do we have parastatals which are suffering, and Kenyans at the end of the day are paying exorbitantly for their power tariffs, and we have people who are free at the end of the day? If Kenya Power was actually plundered, then they should be paying the price. Why should we be paying this particular price right now as Kenyans?
If Kenya Power for a long time, particularly from 90s or even before 90s, is the biggest cash cow in this country. If you are in government, that was where the money was. And today, it's still, in terms of contracts to the politically connected, and it's still one of the most important sources of cash for them. So I think every effort will be made to try and not to allow privatization of institutions like this, because it's to their benefit. Kenya Pipeline, Kenya Power, all these liquid institutions where there's a lot of revenue that comes in. And so I think our regulators are letting us down. I mean, we have independent regulatory authorities that should really be on top of the pricing of energy. And that should look at the interest of the nation and not look at the interest of individuals or shareholders or others. Because what we have often seen in Kenya Power is a situation where we literally finance every aspect of that entity. Even when there is a forex difference, we pay for the forex. It doesn't happen in any other business in this world where you have to pay for everything to shield that institution from any loss, and yet they still make losses. And when they made losses last year, the government had to go out of its way to even bail them out. But even with all that, we are being told that we have to pay more tariff. Now they're asking for more deposits. And so we are paying for corruption, basically, because they are vested interests in Kenya Power. That's the bottom line. There are people, once I was told by a former senior MD of that company that in 4 or 5 of the most critical tenders for that institution, it belongs to the big guys. They didn't say who, but in things like transformers, which is a major challenge you've seen, cables, conductors, all those critical ones where there is money, and it's been there from 80s up to now. It's the same. It's for individuals up there in the power structure, and you can't do anything about it. And this is where I remember when these things were happening, this late 80s and 90s. It was a time when entrepreneurs were going around with LPOs from various state corporations in UK, and they're the ones, they're given an open LPO, if you remember the Somalia case and so forth. So I think it's unfortunate, but these things we have to, as Kenyans, we have to pay the price of bad governance. I keep coming back to that. It's all about leadership and governance. Yeah.